If you're worried about the FAFSA, honestly, don't worry too much. If this is the first time you're about to tackle it, it's really not that bad. Sometimes the preparation for it may seem overwhelming, but when you get into it, it's probably not going to be as hard as you think it is. I personally think some of the fear around the FAFSA comes from the fact that back in the day, maybe when your parents had to fill it out, grandparents, older cousins, they had to complete a paper FAFSA. And yes, the paper FAFSA was confusing, it was daunting, it was difficult to do. But there have been so many updates and so many changes to the way the FAFSA is completed now that it's really not so bad. You have 3 options to complete the FAFSA, where you can have an option to complete the online at studentaid.gov. There's even a mobile application, My Student Aid, that will allow you to complete the FAFSA right from your phone. You actually have the choice to complete the paper FAFSA, and there's some scenarios, very limited scenarios, where you'll be required to complete a paper FAFSA. When you complete the FAFSA, not only are you applying for federal student aid, but you could also be applying for state and institutional aid as well. So it's always recommended that you complete the FAFSA. That's what makes it one of the most important financial aid applications out there. Before you get started, there's some simple things you want to have ready. You want to gather access to your financial documents. Now, if you're planning on using something like the IRS data retrieval tool to import your tax information that you filed with the IRS, you don't need to gather a copy of your tax returns. So that's another step you may or may not have to do. But you do want to get information like the balance of your savings account, any checking accounts that you have. Before you get started, here are some things that you should have ready to go. First, if you're going to be filing the application online or through the mobile app, make sure you have your FSA ID. If you haven't created one before, it's not that bad. You basically will be going to studentaid.gov and creating an FSA ID there. And you'll provide some basic information like your name and your social security number. It's extremely important that the name you use to create your FSA ID and the social security number match what you have on file with Social Security. So if you have a Social Security card, double check how your name is presented on your Social Security card to avoid any issues with the creation of your FSA ID or any issues with filing your FAFSA. Your FAFSA parent or parents will need their own FSA ID in order to sign and submit the application. There could be a situation where your parent is ineligible to get an FSA ID. For example, they don't have a Social Security number, which is required in order to get an FSA ID. That doesn't mean that you can't complete the application online or using the mobile app. That just means the signature and submitting portion will require an extra step of you and your parents printing the information, physically signing it, and mailing it to the appropriate address. Before you get started, you also should have an idea of which schools you're applying to. If you're a returning student, you already know which school you're applying to, so you don't have to worry about this step. However, if you are actually going to college for the first time and you're not sure which school you want to go to, or even if you're questioning transferring to another school, it's recommended that you gather a list of these schools now, so you remember to include them on your FAFSA application. It'll prevent you from having to make any adjustments or corrections later. This also means that you don't need to wait until you know which school you're going to attend to complete the FAFSA. You can do it ahead of time. You can list up to 10 schools at a time. If you're going to apply to more than 10 schools, that's okay too. What you'll need to do is include 10 schools at first, give it some time, then go in, then log into your application again. Then you can make some updates to your school list and remove some that already have your information and put other schools that you're applying to as well. So when do you need to complete the FAFSA? In all honesty, you want to complete the FAFSA as soon as possible. There are 3 main deadlines you want to keep in mind. The most important deadline will be the deadline that comes the earliest. You want to look at state deadlines for completing FAFSA as well as school deadlines for completing your FAFSA. The federal deadline, in all honesty, is only an issue if you're going to summer term or maybe a school with a rolling admission. But the actual federal deadline will be the last day of the FAFSA award year. The FAFSA is released every October 1st before the next fall start term. It might seem a bit early to do it in October, but please get your FAFSA done as soon as possible. Some states don't have a firm deadline. They have more of a method that it's first come, first serve. So it's always recommended that you get it done as soon as you possibly can. Because of the way the FAFSA is released every October 1st, you could log in and see 2 options for 2 different FAFSAs to complete. You want to make sure you pick the correct FAFSA so you don't have any delays in processing your financial aid. It can be easy to potentially pick the wrong one. A lot of times you'll get a notice from your school, but sometimes the first time you'll realize you didn't submit the appropriate FAFSA is when the schools are offering you financial aid packages that don't include any federal or any sort of need-based aid on there. That's usually a red flag that you should contact your school to see if there's anything you did incorrectly or anything that needs to be fixed. When it comes time to actually filling out the FAFSA, if you're a first-time FAFSA completer, you're going to have to provide a lot of the student demographic information on there. So your name, date of birth, address, social security number, things like that. Here's one thing you want to make sure you get correct. Make sure your name and social security matches exactly to what is on your social security card. If you're a returning FAFSA applicant, so say this is your 2nd year, 3rd year, or you're going back as a graduate student, but you've already completed the FAFSA online, you may have the option to complete what's known as a FAFSA renewal. The FAFSA renewal will pre-populate some of the answers you provided before and allow you the ability to correct anything that needs adjustment. It's a little bit quicker way to get through some of those demographic questions. From that point on, you want to read each question carefully. If you have any questions or any concern about what it's asking you, online there's actually a little help with each question being asked, as well as on the mobile app. If you're completing the paper FAFSA, at the end of the form, there'll be detailed instructions and assistance to complete each question being asked to you. Just make sure you're following the questions and answering them truthfully and accurately. You don't want to miss any questions and have any issues when it comes to completing the FAFSA. If you have any questions on specifics, make sure to check out some of our other videos. We cover dependency status, who is your FAFSA parent, especially if you're a dependent undergraduate student. We go into some of the FAFSA financial questions, some of the most common questions that we get and we see asked about the FAFSA, because we go into depth to help you through some of those more difficult areas. Once you finally make your way through the FAFSA, make sure it's signed and submitted appropriately. If you're able to do it all online or through the mobile app, that's fantastic. But you also have options to print the signature pages and mail them in to the appropriate address. If you sign and submit your FAFSA using the web version or the mobile app, you'll get a confirmation email. And in just a few days, you'll also get your student aid report as well as your expected family contribution. If you're mailing in your signature page, it could take a little bit longer for you to get both your student aid report and your expected family contribution sent to you. If you provided an email address, they could be sent to you via email. If you didn't provide an email address, you're going to have to wait for it to be mailed out to you. In addition to having the student aid report just sent to you, the schools that you listed on your FAFSA will also receive your FAFSA information. They actually get what's known as an Edvisor report, which is similar to the student aid report. It's just that school's version, and they'll be informed of your expected family contribution. The school will then use that information, especially that expected family contribution, to determine what type of financial aid you'll be eligible for. In addition, that information could also be sent to any relative state agencies that use that to help award you state aid. If you see an asterisk or a little star next to your expected family contribution on your student aid report, chances are you've been selected for what's known as FAFSA Verification. Even if you see this right after you submit the FAFSA, there's not much you can do until you start working with your school. Your school will let you know what is being verified and what information you need to provide in order to complete FAFSA verification. You want to make sure to get your FAFSA verification done as soon as you receive the instructions from the school. Any delays in completing your verification can delay the receipt of financial aid. Now let's go over some of those red flags. Like I said before, if you get a financial aid package and there's no federal student aid, there's no need-based aid on there, it might be a red flag that your school did not receive your FAFSA information. Double check with your school's financial aid office if there's anything else you need to do. There could be a few other issues that would cause you to not receive federal student aid. Now, if you've already received federal student aid in the past and you have a federal student loan that's in default, it could prevent your eligibility for additional federal student aid funds. If you're a returning student and you are having issues with meeting satisfactory academic progress as set by your school actually may be limited in their ability to offer you any additional federal student aid. You'll need to reach out to financial aid to see what you need to do in order to regain your eligibility. If you're unhappy with the financial aid package you've been offered by your school, you do have the option to file what's known as a financial aid appeal. Make sure to click the link in the description below to get more information about financial aid appeals. If you're interested in borrowing a PLUS loan, now remember, PLUS loans are only for parents of dependent undergraduate students or graduate students. There's an additional application you'll need to complete in order to apply, but you want to make sure you have that FAFSA on file. That's the first step you need to take before you complete the application for a direct PLUS loan. I totally get it. The FAFSA can feel overwhelming. It's a very formal form, but it's not that bad. I suggest you go in and try to fill out as much as you can, and if you run into any problems, make sure to check out some of the resources we have on Edvisors.com. You have the ability to reach out to the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Federal Student Aid, or even work with your school directly to help you through any issues you have. My name is Elaine Rubin, Senior Contributor and Communication Specialist here at Edvisors. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. You don't want to miss out on some of the topics that we help break down for you.